Well, good morning and welcome to the Internet Business Blueprint podcast. This is James Holmes, your host, and we are here to start another great week. And I'm really excited about getting back to the subject of the 11 forgotten laws. You know, we began last week with what's going to be an 11-part series. Today is the third of those 11 parts, and we had a tremendous show on Friday. And if you missed the interview with Rob Handley, I just want to encourage you to go back and listen to the replay at jamesholmesradio.com. And it was very, I think, insightful regarding the mindset required to create success online. And then we really delved into a great understanding of the yournetbizblueprint.com business model. And I really, really appreciated Rob being with us and being so open with us and sharing the ideas that he did. So today we're going to get back to our series, which is dealing with the 11 universal laws, and kind of the foundation and the backstory to how I arrived at wanting to share this series of lessons goes back to some things I'm studying right now myself. You know, I'm a big proponent of personal development. I think it's an ongoing process. And I've been studying some material that's part of the 11 Forgotten Laws that was put together by Bob Proctor and Mary Morrissey. And it's based on the work of Raymond Holliwell in his book, Working with the Law. And what happens is this course is really broken down into 11 lessons, each one dealing specifically with one of the universal laws. And of course, the underlying thought here is really going deeper beyond what was popularized around the law of attraction through the film The Secret. So we're today going to deal with the law of attraction itself. That is number 3. And before I do that and get underway, I want to just give you a little bit of information in terms of resources. If there's anything that you hear on today's podcast or on any of our programs that you want to go really deeper on and exploring additional information, if there's a resource that I mentioned that you'd like to gain access to, if you have questions or suggestions of things that you would love to hear covered in this program, the best place to connect with me is at my blog, and that is at www.askjamesholmes.com, and Holmes is spelled Holmes. On the subject of mindset, I've got a new blog that I launched here about a month or so ago that is going to have a lot of the details around these teachings, including these 11 lessons, and access to a special offer for the 11 Forgotten Laws course that can either be a physically delivered product or you can download it, instant download. And there are 2 different price points, and it's a tremendous value. I'm going through it, like I said, right now myself. And that can be found at www.supermindsuccess.com, supermindsuccess.com, and you'll be able to access that information there, and a lot of other things regarding mindset training, money magnets, and a lot of other great content. I think it's great. At least that's my intention, is to put things there that are of tremendous value for you. So let's talk a little bit about the law of attraction. And a lot of people were not really familiar with the law until the publication of the book The Secret and the film The Secret. And what happened there, the good part of that whole experience of that movie, which is very popular, and the book, which is also very popular, is that it really brought into our consciousness an understanding that there is something out there called this law of attraction. I hadn't really known it exactly that way, although I think as far back as I can remember, have always had the experience of realizing when I really focus on something, that I tend to see the people, the resources, the opportunities coming into my life that are necessary to bring those things about. And there are a lot of examples in my life where I have had the benefit of this kind of having the thought about something or having a desire to do something, having a belief that it's possible, and then having things that I couldn't have seen occur start to unfold in my life. And a lot of people call those things coincidences. I never really understood fully what the law of attraction was all about, but I knew that it wasn't coincidence. I knew it had something to do with a purposeful way of thinking. Where I began to have some understanding of some of these concepts was when I read a great book about 5 years ago by Dr. Wayne Dyer called The Power of Intention. And when I first read that book and then subsequent to that picked up the audio of that, I was so impacted by understanding how intention works, because I really began to understand that it was really aligning with what I already knew to be true by example in my life. Again, like I said, going back all the way to my earliest memory. And at the time, I had a really interesting opportunity to share that message. I had some who become very dear friends that were actually my equestrian trainers. And it was at the time when I was doing hunter jumper and jumper classes in the show ring when I was showing horses. And this couple had fallen upon some just challenging times, relocating to a new market, establishing a new training practice and so forth. And it literally found themselves, for all intents and purposes, homeless. I mean, they were living in their car at the barn. And I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. I always took my lessons really early in the morning. I think I started at 6 a.m. And so one morning I'm rolling into the barn and I basically discovered them in their car. Now they're good friends of mine and there was no judgment around that. But what happened that was interesting was at that same time I was going through and studying Dr. Wayne Dyer's work on the power of intention. So the first thing I did when I had a chance later that day is I went to Barnes & Noble and I purchased that audio set and gave that to these two trainers, this married couple, these friends of mine who were my equestrian trainers, as a gift. And what they did was began to understand, like I had, exactly how these laws worked, and began to work their way into a different set of circumstances in terms of their own life. So I saw this play out in a very practical, meaningful, powerful way for them. And it was just further evidence of the truth of what was being taught there. So with that being said, I then subsequently learned about The Secret and then began to really explore these ideas. I came across Bob Proctor's work specifically related to the 11 Forgotten Laws fairly recently, and purchased that course and began to dive into that, and then a lot of other pieces started to fall into place, because I was very clear that the law of attraction certainly, as it related to The Secret, was very much almost like an appetizer in some ways, because there's a lot of deeper lessons that I want to share with you today. So the first point is that The Secret popularized the idea of the law of attraction. The second thing that I want to really share with you is that through the exploration of these principles, I recognize that this concept is really biblical. And so in terms of my Christian faith and whether or not this lines up and is consistent with that or not, I have found passages in the books of Mark, the book of Matthew, and really throughout, in particular, the New Testament, that relates to the things you think about, coming about, and holding a desire closely in your heart. And so the principles themselves, apart from the popularized aspect, are both ancient and also biblical. And I would also, I'm not a student of other religions, but I would be willing to guess from just my, the reading I have done in some other religions, that there's probably many of these principles probably are consistent with other religions as well, in other faiths. The other thing I want to point out is that the law of attraction is activated in two phases. One is in desire. The other is in expectation. And that's really what we're going to explore today, is these concepts or principles of desire and expectation, and how that really breathes life into the law of attraction that makes it really real for us, and thereby allows us to impact our lives through the understanding of it. So let's first of all talk about desire. Desire embraces a positive process of attraction. When you earnestly desire something, you set up a line between yourself and the force of all supply. if you remain focused and continue to draw into your desire, it's like I described earlier. All of a sudden the people, the resources, the opportunities that you need to bring something about begin to appear in your life. And, at least in my experience, most of those things are things that I couldn't have imagined or envisioned how they would be placed there. In other words, I didn't sit down. I may have had a clear objective and had a strong enough belief that a certain thing was going to come to pass, but it really was when I began to understand how to incorporate this understanding, this belief, and hold it closely enough that it then turned into the actual desire that could be applied and actually seeing the results of it. So the idea that it's just a coincidence or that these things have to be known in advance just isn't true. I think if you clearly have a vision of what you want and you have a certain belief, an expectation, which we'll get to in a moment, that it's going to come to pass, I believe things begin to attract to you, just like a magnet. I believe things begin to attract to you. The second part of it is having the expectation. So the expectation is drawing on that force, which includes that faith or belief that you expect it to happen. So you're not really surprised when it does come to pass because you have the expectation that it is going to come to pass. And that as a person, that the desire for something that is good is not enough. You have to also expect that it's going to come to pass. And so a lot of people set out with good intentions, worthy goals, but may not really believe that they're going to actually achieve them. And so then that's where the gap is then created, and you really fall short because the expectation's not there. You must expect your desire to manifest what you want. And this is so clearly laid out within the work of Holliwell when he talks about having the proper expectation in what it is you desire, that it can indeed become a reality. And the thing that we must understand, that in principle that like attracts like, again, it's like a magnet, in the way of you're setting yourself out there to attract things on the same plane of your desire. And then we move on to the idea of interest. So we've got, the first thing is desire. The second is expectation. So desire for a certain thing, expecting that it's going to come to pass. And then interest is where you're paying special attention to the thing that you desire. And you remember last week we talked about the power of creating a vision board. And what is behind that principle of creating that vision board that makes that such a powerful tool? And really what it's all about is that it keeps your focus. It allows you to maintain a focus on the thing that you want because you are focusing that interest. You're maintaining that interest in the thing that you desire to have. And that vision board is merely just a visual reminder. It can be something in writing, but I think that, at least for me, I'm a very visual person. So having that visual image allows me to be very clear. And even in some ways, because that vision board will become part of, just like a painting on your wall, it becomes something you don't necessarily recognize with the same intensity after it's been there for a number of days. But it's there, it's re-educating the subconscious mind and reminding you of what it is that you're seeking to create and seeking to attract. And so using visual tools like a vision board, or goals written down on a piece of paper, or mantras that you're going to recite to yourself every day, or anything that you can put in front of you to continue to maintain that interest, is a key to the process of making the law of attraction work for you. The other thing that's really critical in terms of maintaining interest is to be actively in the path of seeking out whatever that thing is that you're interested in. So let's bring it to practical terms in our business. So if what we're working on, what if our intention is to create a successful internet-based business, then everything you're doing in terms of attending a podcast like this or a vid-cast like this today, or studying lessons, or learning a new skill, or exploring the products or services that you're going to market, anything that you're doing that is actively on the path of bringing you closer to that goal is going to hold your interest. And it's a very critical, key, and important part of maintaining and attracting to yourself what it is you're looking to accomplish. And so you want to be active in the process of pursuing the thing you're interested in. The key is maintaining that interest. Then the other piece of the puzzle is attention, paying attention to it. So it requires a heightened interest, and it requires the action. So in other words, when I talk about the idea of being interested, the action behind it is the attention you give to it. And so every day you're doing a little bit to bring you closer to your goal. If your goal is to be full-time online with an internet-based business, or if you're a network marketer and your intention is to create a large, thriving organization that's duplicating, and let's say in both those examples you're not yet ready to be full-time, well, the thing that you can do is, in the hours you have to work in that business, work in them diligently and in a focused way, and every day bring yourself a little bit closer to that goal, which will help you to maintain that attention and interest. The attention is what magnetizes the law of attraction to yourself, and so that's the critical piece there. So let's talk about this whole idea of expectation and having the expectation that it's going to work. It is really the final step, and it's the step that you must take, and it's the one that I want to spend the most time with today. Because I oftentimes find, and you can probably relate to this example, where maybe at the first of the year we all, or let's say many of us, sit down in January. It's a new year, everything is fresh, you feel like you're in a position where whatever lessons you can take from what happened the year before, successes that you can celebrate, failures that you can learn lessons from and put behind you, that it's a new year. So people are motivated around the new year to create new goals, put new goals down on paper. And let's use a health-related goal, because it's one that's easy. The easiest examples are either health or money. So let's use a health goal. So let's say that you have a goal for yourself that you're going to lose 20 pounds, just as an example. And so you may set about on the 1st of January with that idea of losing those 20 pounds. And you may even take certain actions to put yourself in a position to begin to realize that vision for yourself. What does that look like? Well, you might go out and join the health club. You may go out and purchase your membership, or you may go to the grocery store and stock up on the food you're going to need that's going to constitute a healthier diet, and begin to stock your fridge and your pantry with healthier foods. That may be one very practical thing that you're doing to bring yourself and set yourself in a position to begin to activate that goal. And so you might start, and you may attend a couple of classes and maybe spend some time with an instructor and begin the process of working out. And so that carries on maybe for the first several days, or maybe for a couple of weeks. And then what happens to many people is they miss a workout. And so then when they miss one workout, it's easier to, almost by default, to miss a second workout. And now suddenly, you've missed a couple of workouts, and so you're now falling out of the new habit that you began to establish for yourself. And before you know it, it's February or March, and pretty much the idea of losing that 20 pounds is somewhat of a distant memory, and maybe the gym membership's being paid for every month, but you're really not engaged in actually going. And that happens to a lot of people. And if you can relate to this experience, because I'm defining something that has been your past record, I'm not doing that to pick on you. I'm just saying that it's a simple example that I can give you, and maybe you can grasp the concept of how you have to maintain that attention, and how you have to put that action behind the intention you have. And then the expectation, if you look back on that and ask yourself the question and answer it honestly, did you have the expectation on the 1st of January where you set that goal, did you expect that you were going to actually achieve it? And a lot of things may influence your answer. One thing might be that you've had the past experience where you've tried to diet and lose weight before, but for whatever reason it didn't work. And so you may have set yourself up to have the belief that you were going to fail. And so you kind of were almost defeated before you began. And that happens for a lot of people. And so it goes back to what your expectation was in the very beginning. So what I want you to do is really grab hold of this overall concept that the law of attraction, and the way to really make it work in your life, is not just an understanding of something that you want and really kind of wishing for it. It's much deeper than that. It isn't just the element of creating some visual trigger for yourself, as we talked about last week and a little bit today, and being consistent in seeing that visual trigger, and that magically that's going to bring it about. I mean, that's going to certainly help, and that's that's a step along the way. It's one of the key principles that you must put in place to really bring it about in your life. But it's not enough. You have to have a desire strong enough to cause you to take action, and then to, at the end of the day, have the expectation that you're going to achieve and bring into your life and manifest the thing that you're seeking to achieve. So to go back to our initial example of the weight loss, that the idea would be that, yes, you have the idea, the original idea on the 1st of January as you're making your New Year's resolutions. You then go out and begin to put into place, by taking action, certain things you need to bring it about. So maybe that's the gym membership, maybe it's an outfit that, that 20-pound weight reduction is going to allow you to wear this beautiful outfit, and you're not only going to believe that it's going to happen, you're going to put some action behind that belief by going out and spending money on that outfit that you're going to wear to celebrate your 20-pound weight loss, and you're going to actually go out and buy it. You're going to acquire it, because that then sets you up to begin to have that expectation that now you're expecting it. And one of the things that is proof of your expectation is that you actually have the dress or the suit hanging in your closet, and you have an expectation of when you're going to wear that. And you're demonstrating your belief by going out and investing the money in it. And so I want you to really hold the piece of expectation close at hand, because it's a critical part of it. So in the few minutes we have left, let's talk now about how you actually end up making that very real in your business, that it becomes a real part of your success story in your business. What we all need to do is to set about goals that are both short-term and long-term in our business. I believe that you should have a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day goal. And that 90-day goal is critical as a measurement, because what you don't want to do, in my belief, is set about a goal that's a 30-day goal, and at the end of that 30-day process, that you're allowing the results of that time period to define whether or not you're going to continue on the path that you're on, because I don't think it's long enough. I've heard it said, and I've read it written, that it takes 27 days to form a new habit, and that may be true. I don't know in a business sense if a 30-day period is a long enough period to measure the results of something, although I do think it's a long enough period of time to know if you need to make subtle adjustments. So let's just say, for instance, we have a list building goal, because we know list building is really a critical part of internet marketing. And let's say you set about that you're going to grow your list in this 30-day period by 500 people. And because your goal is, let's say in 90 days, it's going to be 2,000 people. And let's say you measure it at the 30-day mark and you only have 200 people. It doesn't mean you should scrap your goal, your 2,000 person goal for your list over the 90-day period. What it does suggest, though, is that you're not hitting the benchmark you set for yourself at 30 days. So there's obviously some adjustment that's going to be necessary for you to be able to not only make up for the lost ground in that first 30-day period, but to make sure that you're getting better results, so at the end of that 90-day period, you're at that 2,000 person goal, if you understand the path I'm on here. So the 30-day benchmark is the point of kind of checking in to see if you're trending along the line of the goal you've set for yourself. The main goal is really 90 days down the line. So the 30-day goal is really you're checking in to be able to do some in-flight corrections, to be able to make some adjustments to your method, to the system you're using to create whatever it is you're creating, and to know whether or not you're on the path of achieving the objective. So how does this relate to the law of attraction? I want to make it practical for you. So what you want to do is be very clear on what you want. And I think that what maybe goes without being said is that there's got to be the why behind it. And we've talked about this on a prior lesson. If you go back over the last week and a half of our podcast episodes, you can really go deep on the whole idea behind the why. But let's just assume that when you've reached that decision of what it is, that you've already done the work to understand why you want it. And that you hold that desire close, that you create the visualization for it, because that's going to be your visual trigger, both on a conscious level in the beginning, but more importantly at a subconscious level. So you remain interested in what it is you're seeking to accomplish, and you remain focused on it. And then you're going to put that action behind it and begin, day to day, to take steps. Sometimes they're small steps. They're going to bring you closer and draw you closer to that objective. And then ultimately what you're looking for is bringing yourself to a place of expectation where you just know it's going to happen. You know that if it's a goal of, like I used the example of growing your list by 2,000 people, you just know it's going to happen. And you have a strong enough belief that you begin to see that the people start appearing. People start opting into your list. You start coming up with new ideas on how to attract people to your list. And those ideas begin to yield fruit for you. And you're seeing that this whole process is working. You're bringing into your reality the things that you had held as your deep desire. And then as you start to make those steps and see that accomplishment, it is affirming, which then strengthens your belief. So what happens is then it becomes easier for you to stay on track. So you've made it past that first 30 days, and maybe you're now onto the second 30. And at 60 days, you begin to see the fruits of the labor, and you begin to see the manifestation of your belief, and it becomes easier. You begin to really work towards your objectives with more ease. Let me give you a word of caution, though. Just as certain as it works when you have that level of belief and focus and expectation, it also can fall away if you begin to doubt. So if you're on the path, and this whole thing is not going to be most likely a straight line to the top of achieving whatever the goal is. So let's call that the mountaintop experience. There will certainly be moments where you're in the valley, where certain things don't work, or maybe a campaign doesn't convert, or you have issues with a website, or whatever it is. You're going to have challenges that come up from time to time in your business, and that's true for all of us. What you want to do is avoid, though, letting that lead you to doubt, because you certainly can be on the path and you can find yourself close to achieving the goal, and your doubt can literally wash away whatever advancements you've made, and suddenly you find yourself far removed from whatever the goal is you've set for yourself, where you literally see it actually fall away from you. And I think that the illustration that they used in The Secret, if I remember this correctly, was like a blade of grass. That if that blade of grass that's underneath the soil and is growing and moving towards the sun is a metaphor for your level of belief and your desire actually about to break through the soil and be exposed and manifest, and you suddenly lose your belief, the way they illustrated it was it literally just falling away, shriveling back up and never breaking through the soil. And it really is the same way with the belief in your heart. And so what you want to do is maintain that clear picture of what it is you're seeking to create, whatever you're seeking to manifest, whatever you're seeking to bring about in your life, and then to have that sufficient belief in knowing that what you're doing is going to bring that to pass. So with that, I want to challenge you today. I want to give you a challenge as you walk away from this episode today. I want you to spend the next 24 hours before we're back again and together tomorrow, so the next 23 and a half hours, really being clear on what it is you want. I want you to set up for yourself a 90-day objective, and then I want you to break that down in 30-day increments, where you know at the 30-day mark where you're at from a benchmark perspective, what it looks like if you're on course. And then I want you to have a 60-day benchmark so that you know that if you checked in at 60 days, what are the things that you would look at to know that you're on the path to achieving what you want to achieve. And I want you to have then, logically you'll get to that 90-day goal where you're able to look at it and know that you've accomplished it because the evidence is there. You know what the 90-day goal or objective looks like. And I want you to put that down on paper. And I want you to be very clear on that. And when we kind of reconvene tomorrow at our normal time, 11 o'clock Eastern time, you'll have that first 90-day objective clearly in mind, and it's down on paper. And then we'll take the next step together from there. So until then, I want to thank you for being with me, and as always, want to wish for you a very blessed day, and look forward to seeing you here again tomorrow. Thanks for being with me.